Welcome to Borderline Brilliant, the podcast where we talk about the messy, the meaningful, and everything in between.
I'm Mandeep.
And I'm Rashi. We're siblings, polar opposites in some ways, and way too alike in others.
Today we're talking about something a lot of people quietly worry about. The feeling that you're somehow behind in life.
Yeah, like there's some invisible timeline everyone else got except you.
When we were younger, we had very specific ideas about what success was supposed to look like.
And now that we're older, a lot of the things we thought mattered actually don't.
So today we're going to talk about the stuff we used to care about way too much and the freedom that comes when you stop.
Because if you've ever looked around and thought, wait, am I behind? This episode is for you.
Because you're not.
So let's get into it. I love this topic because I definitely felt it. And I used to think I was the only one that felt it. Until then I was like, wait, but I don't really even know myself enough to know what success was going to look like. And I don't know what grade it was. We had to write a letter to ourselves like at, I don't know, maybe 25 or something. And man, I had myself doing all kinds of dumb shit. Like I'd be married. I'd have 2 kids by then. Like it was crazy. Like in realistic terms, there's no way that was possible unless like I didn't go to college or get a job or any of those things. And I remember like reading it back. I wish I still had it, but I was like, this is crazy. How did this younger version of me think that this was possible? Because I think it felt so far away.
Yeah.
So like, that's like my first memory. I'd be like, this is insane. How would I have done all these things by such a young age? Because I think like when I looked at people that were older than me, one, I probably didn't really realize how old they were when they hit certain milestones in their life because I was so much younger. So I thought everything had to happen so much sooner.
Yeah, for sure. No, I feel that. I mean, now even us now being in our mid 40s, I mean, back then we thought this was ancient. This was like end game, not like time to get your like some of your best growth happens in these years. You know what I mean? Like we were more like that. That's the end. You know, whatever it is, you're there. We didn't. So 20s to us was just like, yeah, that's when you're ramping it all up and making it all happen. Little did we know, you know what I mean? We would just be trying to find ourselves still at that point. And me, I was just really aloof. You know what I mean? I honestly didn't think about it that much. I was just kind of going with the flow. We've talked about that before. I in a lot of ways was very sheltered and protected in that sense. And I just didn't have that gumption you had. You know what I mean? Like where you were a real go-getter. I'm going to go out there and conquer, as evidenced by your letter to your 25-year-old self. You know what I mean? And I was just kind of like, that's cool, and just kind of rolled with it every day and just let mom and dad kind of, dictate my everyday, my daily, and tell me what I was going to be when I grew up. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, like I'm just going to go back to my video games now or play outside or whatever it was, So, so my whole feeling behind and stuff like that in life, it definitely came a lot later when I think we can all agree I was behind because, kind of a failure to launch situation where it was like everything's planned out, everything that and the other. And then all of a sudden, life falls apart around you and you're like, oh, crap. Yeah. What am I going to do now? Yeah, exactly. But even so, I mean, I think we can still relate on a lot of things that we thought, would be important that we realize now as we're older and we're really doing our thing. Wow, we couldn't have been, more off base with stuff that we thought mattered versus what matters now. And a lot of that is, we'll come to discuss here was stuff that was kind of programmed into us of these are the things that matter in life.
This is what success should look like.
Yes, exactly.
And that wasn't what we thought it should look like. It's what everyone around us told us a picture of successful life should look like what things you should have in place for that to be. And, I think it's only as you get older and really like discover yourself and really get to know yourself that you can be like, well, no, actually that stuff really doesn't bring me happiness or doesn't bring me joy or I don't really care about that stuff. Versus when you're younger, you're just kind of like going along with, what your family or your peers or everybody else is striving towards. And you think that like that's the blueprint for success. And, when you do these things, you'll be successful.
And I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there because as we said, we were kind of programmed for that, but that's the difference between being successful in your own life and in your own wants and needs and your self-discovery versus being successful against the comparative study of society. You know what I mean? Keeping up with the Joneses or this, that, and the other. And as much as our wonderful mother and father always told us to, not worry about anyone else and worry about yourself, and you're your own person and whatnot, there was still a lot of that drilled into us. Well, a successful person dresses a certain way,
Yes.
lives a certain way, drives a certain vehicle, does a certain thing.
Yeah.
So there was that still in their mentality of this is what, success is. And it wasn't so much of being told, it was more being shown. You know what I
Yes,
mean? It was
right,
like, with myself and my wardrobe and things like that. When I was too young to even have a clue, I got dressed like all sorts of funny stuff. We've all seen the photos and they're outrageous. I had ruby red shoes at one point, So, I used to get pink sweaters sent from grandparents and, everything but a dress basically, so it was pretty wild. But then by the time I got the, wherewithal of what I was, let's say, wearing or doing at that point, it was already very, manicured from mom. She'd always go shopping and she'd get me all the stuff with all the labels and everything like that. So I just kind of got accustomed to it. So there wasn't this want, but there was this understanding of this is what is the standard. You have to wear these kind of brands or do this, that, and the other because we're successful and this is what we wear. So it was kind of instilled rather than being like a need or desire. It was simply there instilled. And so there are a lot of things, be it cars, be it the clothing or anything of that nature. So you kind of got programmed that this is what's important. Like these are things you have to maintain to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think was like the first time you felt or like realized, no, what I think is the real definition of success looks very different than what I've been thinking for like the longest time?
I think that came from really claiming my independence, to be quite honest with you, to really claiming my peace of mind, and what was required for that. And there is no brands involved with that. There's no cars involved with that. There's no money involved with that. There's peace.
Yeah.
And then you realize what the priorities were. You know what I mean? Like, I think part of it started happening when I lived in Europe for a while, I just noticed it was a whole different mentality for everybody where valued a lot more about experiences and getting together and being together, whether it was travel or whether it was just sitting in a pub for a while or whatever, nobody even, the brands were not even mentioned. And that's not to hate on the U.S. society versus whatever. I'm just saying that.
This is reality.
It's just reality. You know what I mean? These were people who were really comfortable in their own skin. We came from abroad, from every different continent and country, and we're all there together. And we were way more interested in one another's stories and how things are back home and what's going on. And of course, sports and stuff with guys and the girls, you know what I mean? And just those types of things and experiences and places we traveled or want to travel. And we did travel together versus nobody discussed clothing or brand names of any kind of jewelry or anything. None of that mattered, where it was I know we grew up with that, just kind of as part of our part and parcel of existence, be it jewelry, clothing, vehicles and all that stuff. And we walked around and took public transport everywhere. You know what I mean? None of that absolutely mattered. So that was my first, I think, real eye opener of, okay, that's actually not universal, that everybody's concerned about these things and things of that nature. And then that freed me up more, I think. And then when I wanted that and I gravitated more towards my peace, is when I really started letting go of these other things that were just complicating my life for no reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's when it really opened me up. Because before that, I was just going with the flow again, just being programmed, just having all that at my disposal. And I just kind of followed that rule throughout my 20s and everything like that. But like I said, when I moved over there is when it really, opened me up. Because I'll tell you, when I first went to college, I went to University of Pittsburgh, and it was strange. It was in my dorm room. One of my buddies walked in, and it was the strangest thing, freshman year. And he goes and he opens my closet and he starts looking at all my shirts, and he looked at all the labels, Polo, Nautica, Lacoste, whatever it may have been back then, and he was just like, wow, okay, you really do have money or whatever. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
That's the strangest,
Thing.
weirdest
Yeah.
thing. Like, I don't know what he expected
Yeah.
to find in there or
Yeah.
not find in there. I just, like I said, we had that just because, mom just got me all that stuff. I didn't shop for one of those clothes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I just go and whatever. But it was so strange, like how I'd never had anyone do something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? How we grew up, where we grew up, it was just kind of like, it was what it was. But that, like I said, was very different than when I studied abroad and no one would even thought or mention of it. I didn't know what anybody else wore. Nobody
Yeah.
knew what I wore.
Yeah.
We just wore what we wanted to wear. And,
Yeah.
that wasn't it. Everybody had their own style, their own
Yeah.
identity, their own thing. And it was liberating in a sense, you know what I mean? To where we were focused on things that had nothing to do
Yeah.
with money or perceived success.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
How about yourself?
I think for me, it was after having kids. I knew I always, like, my biggest thing was, like, I always wanted to be a good mom, like, more than anything else. And that's why I didn't, like, at one point I wanted to go into medicine, but I was like, I don't see myself wanting to do that because it's going to take too much away from, like, my family life. And so I always knew that, like, that was always, like, a core pillar that never has changed. But then when I became a mom, I was like, I am unhappy. Like, I'm not, like, happy. And it wasn't unhappy from a materialistic perspective. It was more like, I wish I had more freedom in my life. I wish I had considered that when I was in college, if, like, becoming an accountant was really, like, the best thing for me to do, because I'd be stuck to a 9-to-5 job where I'd have very minimal flexibility. And I think that's when I first really started craving, like, I really want flexibility in my life. I want more ease and flexibility because I want to be able to, like, not have to go into work if I don't want, if the kids have something going on or the kids are sick or whatever, or, I want to go to their school to help with some kind of a project or something. I think that was the first time where I was like, it really was the first time where I was like, you have your priorities wrong. Like, you're like trying to chase some weird dream that doesn't really give you happiness. But I also realized, like, looking back when I was younger and, having, like, a really nice car, like having the Porsche, made me super uncomfortable. Like, I never felt comfortable with those things, even though those were the perceived symbols of wealth. But, like, it made me so uncomfortable in my own body to be like, I don't know. I just felt weird because I was like, this isn't really, like, my money and, my stuff, but I'm supposed to be, like, really loving this, but I don't because I feel awkward, which is something I've had to, like, really work on a lot of my relationship with money and how it made me feel. But it was really interesting to, I think the first time, like, being in, like my mid-30s and being like, yeah, I don't really like this. What do I really want? Like, I don't like how I basically have created this life now that I just don't think is my ideal. Like, I don't want to keep moving up the corporate ladder. Like, I don't want that because that's going to mean less time with my kids and maybe a little bit more flexibility in my schedule, but still just more demands on me, right? And that's not something I wanted. And I think that's where I think it started for things to shift for me and for me to start thinking, like, okay, well, what kind of life do I really want? And it's crazy to think, I mean, like, I'm 47 now. Like, I had, the second one at 35, I think. And so it doesn't feel like that long, that it's been 12 years. But I think that's really where my, like, evolution started. And I think the other thing for me that really pushed me was around the same time, like, after having him maybe a year or two later, I ended up getting, they incidentally found an aneurysm. And that really shifted my mind because I was like, man, what if I had died? Like, what if, like, yeah, obviously, like, I've become a mom and I love that and they're going to be my legacy. But, like, I really need to work harder at figuring out what kind of life I really want. Not the kind that everybody's telling me that I need to have, like, because I feel like I had done all those things. Like, we had bought a house, really nice house, we had renovated it, we'd done all the things, but I'm like, but on the inside, I'm like, I don't really care. Like, I remember even buying that house and being like, this is too much. Like, I don't want this. But, I think it's hard when you have a partner and you're trying to balance both people's needs. But I remember thinking that, like, I'd be happier with something smaller. Like, that would be okay with me. And I think that's really when my perspective started to shift to really being like, okay, well, I felt like getting diagnosed and catching the aneurysm before it ruptured was like God's way of telling me, like, hey, dude, wake up. Like, your life that you're living right now, there's more there, but you need to, like, really reassess and try to figure out what that is. And I feel like that's what I've done over the last 12 years is figure out what that life looks like.
Yeah, and for me, if I'm even taking a step back, from before moving abroad, I think that the catalyst for that and for me knowing what I didn't want
Yeah.
was working in the hotels,
Yeah.
working with dad in the hotels and everything. And it wasn't just how he was as a boss or anything. It was really the business. It was 24/7,
Yeah.
365. It didn't matter daytime, wherever it was. If anything happened, you had to be on site.
Yeah.
You had to be on site. It was just anything could happen, and it could be such a major loss because you're dealing with customer service. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like people need to be assured, managed, and everything of
Yeah.
that nature. So I just knew that wasn't peace. You know what I mean? I know it was good money, it was all those types of things, but I knew that wasn't the life for me. I really didn't want something like that. I don't want to say 9 to 5, but I just needed something where I could turn off when I was done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of that is what spurred me to go abroad and kind of get away from it and veer away from the family business.
Yeah.
And to do something else and whatnot. And I think that was also part of what spurred me there, but then that's kind of what inspired me. So then, as I got older, I definitely realized that I needed something that I could do, be successful at, make money, but then that I could turn off and walk away and not have to be responsible for 24/7. And that to me was really good at peace because I enjoy that. I enjoy my solitude. I enjoy being able to turn things off and just be in my own thoughts or whatever it may be. So those things started holding a lot more value to me than all of these perceived things. I remember, I don't know at what point it was, but I was like, you got to have a guy, you got to have like a really nice car, a nice top of the line phone and a nice top of the line car.
Yeah.
Those were the things. And now, those, it couldn't be further from the truth. You know what I mean? Like I have so many watches and stuff that I've never wear ever. Just in a freaking,
Same with my bags.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly. It's just like, it was so funny how that was so important at one point, and now it's like literally have them all, couldn't care less about them, that they're just sitting there. I don't even know where they are, whether they're, in a safe somewhere or I don't know. It doesn't matter. What does it matter? I'm not going to use it,
Yeah.
And car-wise, now that's more of a utility thing. I understand having a good quality car and, you don't want some whatever, but it's more about the utility of it. It needs to be for what its purpose is and where it gets you and whatnot. And, we all enjoy the tech stuff and all that kind of jazz, but that all comes with everything now. And, you still want a good one, but it's not like it used to be. I need to have an Aston Martin. I need to have this. I need to have that, Yeah. And I remember like you were alluding to with the Porsche, like mom and dad bought you a brand new Porsche 911 drop top. And then it was like amazing. Okay. And then you literally sat me down in my room, I don't know, a couple weeks after you got it. And it was like, you're like, I really need to ask you a big favor and just sit down. And I'm like, what? Like, what is she talking about? Like, I had no idea. Like, what am I going to do for you, bro? You know what I mean? Like, I'm struggling as it is, And so, and you're like, I'm just really uncomfortable with this car. And, I don't feel, safe in it and all this, that, and the other. So I know you were supposed to get a new car, but would it be okay, if you took the Porsche and then I just got another car? And I was like, yeah. I was like, hell yeah. I don't know how dad will feel about this shit, but yeah, I'm in,
Yeah.
And that was just wild, Yeah. And he was just like, oh God, what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I trust this kid with this. And, but no, it was just funny, how that you were so mature at that time, even that you got something that people wish, dream, and work so hard for. And you were just like, you know what? This ain't me.
Yeah, no, I know it's so weird because people are like, oh my God, like, oh, you had this, you drove that kind of car. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't mean shit. Like me driving that kind of car doesn't mean, it doesn't like, and I realized it right away. I think that was like probably the first time in my life where I wanted something so badly. I thought I did, and I got it. And I was like, I feel nothing.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel any like this doesn't mean anything to me. Like it's just I'm like so uncomfortable in this, and it's not me.
Yeah.
But it's the first time I think ever really experiencing that and being like, this is not me, because I think again it was about what I was showing outside, perceived external success versus internal success.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the biggest thing that I've worked through is like really understanding internally I want to be successful, externally it'll whatever I create will happen, but it's not about that. It's not about me carrying the Louis Vuitton bag. Like I have so many bags I literally rarely use them, you know, like I don't care about having a car. I mean, even the kids were like, what kind of car would you want to have if you had anything? And I was like, honestly, it would have to be something practical. I'd probably buy a Porsche again now because it'd be different. It'd be me buying it for myself. But like, I wouldn't want anything crazy because I'm way too practical. I think that's what I realized in that situation. I am a very practical person. So like, I don't want all the foo-foo fancy crap because it's too much like responsibility and upkeep and all that. And I don't want all that, you know? So I was like, yeah, I'd probably get a Porsche again, you know? Like, I don't think I really need anything crazy because it doesn't mean anything to me. And I don't need to like show people or like in Punjabi, you know, like do the kava.
Yeah.
Cause like a lot of it was that like showing, oh my gosh, I'm doing well, you know, like I remember even when I got my first job, I went to Louis Vuitton and I bought a purse and a matching wallet because I needed to show that I was, you know, doing well for myself. And it's like, no, that has nothing to do with like showing your success is stupid and it doesn't really mean anything. You know, it's like now I kind of think about the opposite when I see people and they're wearing branded labels on like from their freaking head to their toes. I'm like, you're clearly showing you want to show your wealth, and that's fine. Like if that does it for you, but like even recently I had to do an event like with, so I've become a coach. That's what I've started business last year. And it's about embodied living, right? And really it's like embodying the life you really want and actually living it, creating it. Like what kind of life do you want? And then going out. So I was going to go to this conference for South Asian working moms. So I wanted to buy an outfit. It's the first time in my life at 46, I went to a store, did not look at a price tag, and just bought stuff that like, you know, I was attracted to. Like just walked around the store. You know, we went to Nordstrom and I was like, I'm just going to walk around. Whatever I like, see that I like, I will try it on. And if I like it, I'll buy it. And it was very uncomfortable for me because, you know, growing up being like, yes, you want the best, but also get it at the best price. You know, that's always been a whole thing. And I'm like, I don't have the patience or like it's so much chaos, you know? I get it. You're saving money and everything. But it was the first time I went, bought stuff that I really loved. I didn't care what the whatever was. I just went and looked at it, bought it. And then I was telling, you know, Preet that the other thing that I did was I also then did not come home and immediately look up the things and see if I could find them for a cheaper price. Because the old me would have done that.
Yeah.
Because that was so ingrained in me. Is like, let me find. Oh, well, can I buy it cheaper? Then I'll return it.
Yeah, seriously. Let me find misery.
Yeah, but it's exactly that. It's like but it's like I think just understanding those dynamics, and it's like crazy. Like right, you know, we went to Vegas recently, and you know, a lot of my stuff is working on like, you know, self-worth and abundance. Really, I feel like comes from that, and having that inner peace. And it was the first time, like I've been to Vegas so many times. The most I've ever won is $300. And, you know, I won $8,700. And I was like, and the craziest part was I was so much more excited when I won the $300 because I was in a different mindset of my life then. I was like, oh my God, I won $300. Oh my God. And I won $8,700. And I was just like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, literally the people around me were more excited. There's like 3 people sitting next to us and they were just like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Because it's just a different thing. I don't attach value to money in the same way because I'm like, it's just something that I need. But I also know that like the biggest thing I want to build overall is like a legacy for my kids, as in I want them to be good human beings and, you know, go out and do good things in the world. And, you know, I want, you know, to be able to live in a home where I feel at peace and it's beautiful to look at, but, you know, it doesn't have to be a freaking McMansion which is for sure what I wanted when I was younger,
Yeah,
you
oh,
know?
yeah, absolutely.
But now it's like, and same thing with a car. It's like, I like my car. We were looking at a much more expensive car and we just couldn't get it because they wanted like, you know, premium. And I'm like, I'm not paying that. But I love the car I have. And I was like, we can buy another one later. Like, it's so much easier to just like feel at home and comfortable, like in your life.
And do things practically, not
Yes.
do them because of what others will
Yes.
think or what you're
Yes.
supposed to do or what the
Yes.
standard is.
Exactly. Yes.
You know, that's the freeing
Yeah.
nature of it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I will say, I can appreciate we have a very different, a unique perspective on this because we did have all those things.
Yeah.
We went through that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? At
Yeah.
that young age and all that.
Yeah.
So that also wore thin. Because
Yes.
that we've lived that life, and what did it really do for us? Do you know what I mean? If anything, it just keeps raising the bar. It keeps making it. The rat race never stops. At every level of success, at every level of, you know, wealth or whatever you achieve, there's always a next level of things you'll
Yes.
want and need to keep up.
Yeah.
So you can get trapped in that forever, or you
Yeah.
can wake up finally.
Yeah.
And it's up to you when you wake up, whether it's right at the start line
Yeah.
or if it's at the finish line.
Yeah.
But eventually you will understand that that's all static, that's all waste and excess. You need to find what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Whichever car it might be, whichever clothing it might be, it's all okay. These are all, you know, just corporal outside things. Just do what makes you happy. Live your life, you know,
Yeah.
invest in the things you care about, like your family, your children,
Yeah.
your siblings or your parents, whatever relationships there are. You know, prioritize that. You know, invest obviously, and then also in things. Invest in your life in the sense of traveling.
Yeah.
You know, enriching that. And so
Yeah.
it's just that, you know, it's up to you. It's all about your mindset, your mentality, where you want to focus. Because like anything and anyone, I don't care how much you make or how little you make, it's a finite amount.
Yeah.
So it's up to you what you do with that. And happiness is. Some people think it's the hardest thing in the world, but really, if you really dig deep inside, it's really not that hard to be happy. You just have to get your mind right and be surrounded by people who have that kind of same mindset of wanting peace in their lives, wanting abundance of love, laughter, you know,
Yeah.
things of that nature. And once you kind of set your mind right to that, and as I said, it's easier for us because we've been there, done that with all that stuff. You don't miss it as much. You don't care as much. But I understand it's different if you hadn't had that taste. But I mean, I can honestly say that's all it is. It's a never-ending rat race. It's a never-ending. It's never good enough or big enough or expensive enough
Yeah.
if you don't get your head right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So indulge. Maybe have a hobby. Maybe have a thing you're really into or whatever. But don't expect, you know, your whole life to just kind of try to keep up with people, because people will always. There's always a bigger fish. First of all.
Yeah.
And it's just never enough. So you've just got to find that inner peace, that inner happiness. And, you know, also you'll find people who also have that peace and happiness. So you won't have to be in that rat race with all these other folks.
Yeah. I think if you're in a circle where you feel like you are competing, get out of it.
Yes. It's
Because
toxic.
I think, and this wasn't even from like for like my friend group. So I have a group of friends, you know, women that I've been friends with since one, I mean, is my cousin. So I've been known her my whole life. But like, you know, she introduced me to the other girls that I'm friends with. And, you know, we really went through a good like evolution, because we realized when we got married, we all were trying to, I think, portray the perfect life. We're all living, we're all being so perfect, you know, and then we had kids and it kind of shifted a little bit. But then we really, after that, really shifted it and like evolved and really had honest conversations of like, hey, we're not in competition with each other. We don't need to compete with each other. Let's just like support each other. Everyone is doing their own thing, doing well. Like we should be a safe space for each other to be able to share our struggles and the things that we like are going through, versus like always trying to portray this perfection on the outside when, you know, we all need support. And I think in most people's circles, if you have that kind of, you know, like if it feels like you are competing, that's probably what's going on, is everyone is performing for each other. And at the end of the day, you're just really killing each other.
So miserable.
Yeah, it's so miserable. And so like if you're in it, either have that hard conversation of like, you know, hey, let's really have true connection and friendship, or, you know, walk away from it. Because some people just are surface level, and that's fine. That's what they can handle. But, you know, for you to really have like a thriving group of friends, you got to have those conversations, and they're not always easy to have. But when you can have them, you're going to have a better friendship. And if you don't, then they're not for you anyways. You know, it's like, what would you tell someone who's like, man, I feel so behind? Because I feel like a lot of people right now, especially with everything that's going on, everything is so expensive and all that, you know, they feel like everything, like they're behind. What would you say to them?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, right? Like, where is it you feel behind? Like, find out what's that priority. What's that thing? Is it your career? Is
Yeah.
it getting a home? What is it? You know, and then focus on that
Yeah.
thing. You're gonna have to make sacrifices of other stuff.
Yeah.
You can't burn life at both ends. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're gonna have to focus and just better yourself. If it's your job, better yourself. If you're in office, get better at Excel, get better at this, get things,
Yeah.
tools, find out what'll help you, you know, meditate, do things like, honestly, whatever would help you focus more, talk to your peers, talk to your bosses, find out how you can improve. There's nothing wrong with, again, asking for that. If it's a home or if it's travel, prioritize that, cut out other things.
Yeah.
And start focusing on saving for that. All of these things are doable and achievable. It just takes prioritizing,
Yeah.
and then, you know, reaching out for help, or just
Yeah.
kind of, you know, putting that as your priority, because that's what life is. Honestly, it's like prioritizing one thing over the other, and having to sacrifice other things. Don't be scrambling. Don't try to do all these things at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be my honest thing, is that, because I mean, I started over completely from scratch. You know, I literally just went and got lost in the middle of nowhere and decided I would start over. And in a very short order of time, I have achieved a lot of success in that. And I'm super proud of that. I know you're really
Should
proud
be.
of me.
I'm so proud of you.
And it's been amazing. And I didn't even expect it, but that's just what I did. I just decided to reset and start over.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's what, you know, Jag and I told you too, is like, just do whatever it is. It doesn't matter what your job is. It does not define you, but two, just do something. Because I think anyone who feels lost, like I felt like, and I knew you would come out of it. I knew you would be fine. But that's why both of us were like, just do a job and get started, because that will, one, just really boost your self-worth.
Absolutely.
You know, like it will really help you feel like, all right, I am earning for myself. I'm doing it on my terms. And I think that's so important. And, you know, like even now, mom and dad are like, oh, well, now tell them to do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell them to do that. I'm like, you guys don't understand. And I think the funniest thing about that is they always are both like, you're so impatient. I'm like, you don't realize how patient I am, especially when it comes to being like patient with people. I'm very patient because I can see the potential in someone, but I don't force them to, because you can't force anyone to get where you think they need to be.
Yeah.
It takes time and it takes self-reflection and their own efforts to get there. But like, I was like, no, I'm actually really patient. And I know that he's going to do very well. Like, I'm not worried about that. Because again, I think it's because I don't put a timeline on people's success. Like, I don't put a timeline on, I definitely did it for myself when I was younger. I don't do it anymore. But I think it's like, there is no timeline for success. Your story, how your like life is going to evolve, and what is meant for you to come into your life and how it's meant to really happen is really not up to any of us. It is, you know, up to God, whoever created us, whatever you guys believe in, but it's really not your timeline. So, and I think the biggest thing I've learned in just having like trust and getting to know myself is like trusting the timeline.
Yeah.
It's really just, now it's like, I used to be like, it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. But like, now I really feel that so deeply. It's like, it's all going to work out, but it may not work out exactly how I want it to, or how quickly I want it to. And I think the biggest thing that I've shifted in the last year is not forcing things. Cause I think like for me, I'm always like, I want to do more. I want to like get it done. And I started doing that when I first started my business, because I was like, I want to be able to like, you know, get more clients. I want to be able to get my website up. I want to be able to do this and that. And then I was like, no, this is too much. It's not sustainable, because I'm still working full time while I'm trying to build this. But then I think when I shifted to being like, it's fine. Like, I'm basically, the more I allow things to just kind of naturally flow, it's just things just go faster and align faster versus me trying to force everything. So I think for anyone who, you know, is out there and you feel that way, like really one, I think getting to know yourself, like you said, and just really trying to figure out what really are your priorities. What are the things that you really do care about? And you can get that as easily as like, you get a coffee. Does that make you happy? Great. That's something you should definitely do more often. And, I know some of the old school people are like, coffee is what's making you important. It's like, no, it's not. That's not what's going to help you towards that bigger goal. But one, figure out what that bigger goal is and why.
Yeah.
Like even for someone who wants a house, it's more than just wanting a house. You're wanting a place where you can enjoy yourself, you can entertain, your kids can grow up. You can sit and you have a corner that you like to sit in and read a book. You like to have a backyard where your kids can play, or you can have a barbecue. Like those are the things that you need to focus on. The house is not really what's going to give you that happiness or that joy or success. It's going to be figuring out what are you really trying to call into your life overall, right? And I think that when you can figure that out, then you can really recalibrate and reassess and be like, okay, this is really what I want. And how do I get to that point versus I think wanting all the things.
Yeah.
Just,
And I think for me as well, when I finally decided that I was going to start over and start from scratch, initially, I kind of followed mom and dad's lead again with starting my own business and whatnot, and kudos to them. They gave me the cash injection and everything I needed to get that rolling, get going down. But I was miserable in that. You know what I mean? That didn't succeed. It didn't go the right way. And that, oddly enough, made me hit true rock bottom with that. And then that's when I just decided to literally leave everything behind, stay in that same vein, but I realized I need more support.
Yeah.
I don't do it on my own. I don't want to do it on my own. I'm not succeeding on my own. I need that. So now, I went and did what I was doing, but for a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
And now I've really climbed that ladder, you know what I mean, in short order. And it's been amazing because I'm very capable and whatnot, but I need support. I needed a team around me. I needed to be a member of a team. I needed supervision. I needed, the people around me and that structure and all that. And I've just flourished in that. And so I'm so thankful for knowing that as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Even though we grew up in a household of we're business people, we do business, this, that, and the other. I was like, you know what? This is not for me. I need structure.
Yeah, and that's okay because I think it is different. And I think it's really important what you said about, knowing that you need help.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of it, same for me, like, starting the business was very weird. And in ways I was like, why am I feeling so foreign in this space when like I grew up with had so many different businesses? But it's because this is one, it's completely different. It's a service-based business, right? I'm coaching, I'm helping people like change their lives. Very different than, than running like a brick and mortar kind of
You're
space.
a very structured person.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not. I'm chaos. So that's why even when you were like, hey, let's do this podcast and everything, I think we have a lot to offer and whatnot. I was like, okay, but you're in charge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're the structure. I'm here, but, and you're awesome. You carry us and I appreciate that. But that's once again, knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses and you are that. So that's why I think you're doing wonderful in what you're doing. You have a lot of structure and then you're able to channel that and channel your energy into something that really helps people. And I mean, this is helping me. I enjoy this too, and I think we can do really well and help people, but I couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't want to do it by myself. It's a different kind of dynamic. And I think that, one of the reasons, we started this is really truly to help people. I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's the biggest thing we get from, Sikhi is like, helping others, right? And I think that's been the biggest kind of like guiding light in everything I've done. I've always wanted to help others. How can I be in service to others? And so even in accounting, I found companies where they were doing things that were in service to others, not just like a normal, business accounting, like just being an accountant for, whatever. And so that has always been like a guiding light for me. And I think, finding that out for people too is like, what is it? And I think even if you're doing anything, and especially I think if you feel lost or behind, being in service to others, I think helps so much with your self-worth and just your own confidence. I think it's a great thing to just go and do something for somebody else. Even if you feel like you don't have a lot of money, there's so much volunteer work you can do, right? And it's so helpful. And I think the biggest thing I've learned even in growing my business is, I've taken on free clients when I was first starting because I just wanted to learn and I wanted to see because you learn from every single person you interact with, right? And, those clients have brought me great, information or like things that have helped me to grow. And so I think anytime you interact with someone, definitely not having the perspective of like they're going to get me something, but you always gain something from that experience. So I think that's, really important. So I think if you feel behind, you're not, because your timeline is your own and everything is meant to unfold when it's supposed to, because you're going to interact and do things throughout that time. And, you don't know what that is right now, but later on, like now being 47, I can definitely be like, wow, all these things happen for a reason. And it's led me to where I am at this point. And if I hadn't gone through that stuff, I wouldn't be in this place.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, for me, everything that I've done and how hard I've worked now to achieve what I have achieved, I wouldn't have been able to do that before. I wasn't that same person.
Yeah.
I had to go through what I went through. I had to make my mistakes. I had to literally hit my rock bottom in order to build myself back up and believe in myself. And I feel a million times better now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Than I did before. Because before, I might have had all this, that, and the other on the outside, but on the inside, I was just a scared, confused guy that didn't know what was going on, was just being, just walking the path that was chosen for me to leave that path and build my own. I have forged an entirely different perspective and understanding and self.
Yeah.
And it's amazing and I love it. And the sky's the limit, and that's why I'm even doing what we're doing now.
Yeah.
It's just because I now have that inner confidence and I have that, desire inside to share what we've been through, because we've lived all over the world.
Yeah.
We've experienced highs and lows,
Yeah.
We've experienced different worlds. So
Yeah.
it's just awesome. But yeah, I can't tell you how much better I feel about myself now, having earned what I've earned, even though it pales in comparison to what mom and dad had done, but that's okay. We're just getting started,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but I love myself so much more.
Yeah.
And I love the freedom that
That's
this
priceless.
brings. Yeah, and it's incredible, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Please subscribe. Send us your thoughts. Send us, if you guys have topics you want us to talk about. Or the other thing, I would love to hear about is if you have a sibling dynamic that, you want advice on. We would also love to help you with that, because I think we have had a lot of experiences within our own sibling
Yeah,
dynamic.
listen, we've butted heads a lot. We've gone love, hate,
Yeah.
everything. You know what I mean? And we're still right back here, standing strong.
Yeah.
And that's after going through a lot. So yeah, we'd love to chime in or try to help out or anything like that. And we love discussing stuff, as you can tell. I mean, Rosh and I, we talk every day, daily. We have great conversations with one another. We make each other laugh like crazy. And, nothing's too serious, nothing's too light. We have a good time with it. So if there's anything you guys like to share, hey, we'd be happy to chew on that too.
Yeah.